All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us back. We're now into session two in the Get Seen, Get Results track for Full Circle 2024. And this one, I'm sure, is particularly top of mind for most of you, thought leadership. And by that, I don't mean 10 things turning 40 taught me about B2B marketing or 5 ways to 10x your revenue overnight. What I do mean, actually, I'm not going to tell you. We've got two incredible marketing leaders here with us for this panel discussion. And we're hopefully going to break it down for you with them. Join me, please, in welcoming our first panelist, Justin Rowe, who's the founder and CEO of Impactable. Impactable is a leading B2B LinkedIn ads agency. Justin, thank you so much for joining us for this panel today.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Okay, and we also have with us Rohit Srivastav. Rohit has been a part of multiple SaaS companies for almost a decade and more, including WebEngage, CleverTap, Netcore, ZoomInfo, Kula, and he's now currently the head of marketing at Fleet Panda. He also runs the free Slack community S11S that brings together almost 4,000 B2B marketers. Rohit, again, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. Quick fact, I've worked with Impactable at Fleet Panda and love the proactiveness that they show. So recommendation from you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Incredible. Okay. There for today's session, we've also got a bunch of additional resources that you will find in your event panel. If you look for an icon underneath your where your chat icon is, and click on that, there's a bunch of resources that Rohit and Justin have curated for you folks for this session. So make sure to check those out whenever you can. On that note, let's start with a question for all of you in the chat, right? Drop me your favorite emoji in the chat if you've ever published what you thought was an incredible piece of thought leadership, only to hear crickets in response. Go on then, let's see you in the chat. Drop us your favorite emoji. Okay. All right, we can keep that. We can keep that bit rolling, and I think that is a good segue for me to ask both of you, Justin and Rohit, my first real question, right? Because this is something which is so real to all of us. We spend hours and hours creating that one perfect piece of content of thought leadership, and we post it out on LinkedIn or whatever other channels that we're on, be it Twitter, be it LinkedIn, be it YouTube, and we don't get the kind of response that we thought we would get. What do you think is possibly, and we sort of can start our discussion here today, what do you think is the reason for this misalignment between our thoughts and what the audience was expecting? Rohit, can we start with you first?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for that question. Honestly, I can go about listing down 10 things to do, the time of the day, and the hashtags to use, and or not to use for that matter. But honestly, all of that keeps on changing. The algorithm is smart enough to learn, and every new blog post that comes every week will have some relevancy there. But what I have seen across these years, I think I've been active on LinkedIn for the past about 4 years now. And the one thing that I have seen people taking up LinkedIn and then leaving it because it's not getting traction or likes or whatever, right? It's mostly because they're talking at people. They do not talk to people. They don't understand the things that the audience wants to listen. They think about the inherent definition of thought leadership that they have in their mind is something that has to come to their mind while they're sitting in their ivory towers, sitting on their desk and creating something, and this profound insight that has come out of their mind, which the world does not know. Honestly, not understanding the audience, the most fundamental thing, is something that does not work when you put out like a huge thought leadership piece. Obviously, it has to be readable, it has to be skimmable, and all of that. But the most fundamental thing that I have seen is not understanding what your audience really wants and what is your brand persona for that matter. I think these two things, if done right, and with obviously now AI is there for formatting, and you can just follow the best practices. That's a lot of plugins provide, honestly. I think these three things have been the most fundamental issue I have seen people not get the traction that they need to get on the platform.
Agreed. Justin, do you want to chime in there? I think when we're thinking about not understanding your audience, right? What is it? What does it take to understand what your audience wants?
Yeah, and I like what he said about talking at people instead of with them. And one of the things I try to do that I think is really helpful is first consume content before I create content. So if I'm consuming the content of other people in my space, I feel like I understand the relevant topics, what people actually care to hear about. And so then building content around that, it gets a lot easier. And then the other thing I would add to that is I think building the right audience makes a big difference, because if you're just posting, like you decide today I want to post on LinkedIn, you haven't curated an audience that wants to hear that knows you and trusts you yet. So there's a lot of work in building a targeted audience and growing your network in an intentional way. And then weirdly enough, the other thing that I think is a final missing component in my mind is engaging in the feed and world around you. LinkedIn is a give and take kind of platform. Even if you're the smartest person in the world, unless you've already built $1 billion company and people just gravitate towards you naturally, it takes some work to build an engaged audience, engaging with others, building networks and partnerships so that people are supporting your content while you're supporting theirs. And so those elements, I feel like are usually missing in this kind of motion.
Understood. And I think the building your audience up is such an important part of things. And this is something that I've experienced personally as well. I was a school teacher for the longest time. My entire LinkedIn feed was full of school teachers. I built a company for school teachers. My company got acquired by an LMS that's built for school teachers. And then I went on building a network with school heads of schools and people around the world who are involved in the education ecosystem. And a very small part of that were founders of tech companies as a result of that, right? And now I'm a marketer, marketing to tech companies, and I really needed to build my LinkedIn feed from the ground up, quite literally over the last few years. And I know, Rohit, this is something that you helped your founders at previous companies do. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a great question to ask because a lot of people just overlook this fact and they just start putting out content from day one. I think one of the things that I do with whichever founder that I work with in my capacity is finding out what is your network consisting of the right people that you want to reach out to. For example, if you're building like as you said, if I was building a platform, a software for school teachers, I'm pretty sure I don't have even a single school teacher in my network. So I would go about actually adding, first of all, as Justin said, go into those communities, follow those thought leaders who are already creating these kinds of content, go into their comment section, start engaging in some meaningful way. At the same time, do it like a playbook, block like in half an hour, 1 hour every day, where you do this manually. And I'll tell you how I actually do this is I start with, so for example, right now, let's take your example, right? If I am a new person building a software for a school teacher audience, I would go to Pallavi's profile, first connect with her, then go to the knowledge graph, the people graph of LinkedIn, is people you may know. That's the best possible way. Let LinkedIn do your work. That's the best possible way to find actual organic active traffic, because the people that LinkedIn will suggest is actually the people who are actively using the platform either to consume or create content, because LinkedIn wants you to network with those people so that you are also attracted and engaged on the platform. And I'll just do every day 30 minutes every day, 15-20 minutes every day for the next 1 month. Just do that. Go whichever new people that I'm adding, go engage on their comment and spend 15 minutes and adding like 20 people to my network. At the end of the month, you are having like 1,000 new people that are exactly your ICP and that have seen you engage with Pallavi's content for a year, for a month, and then Pallavi plus plus, right? So three, four, five
Right.
people like Pallavi. So now you're not an outsider, and now you're not talking at them, right? You're one
Mm.
of those guys who is actually giving back to the community, adding something meaningful. At the same time, you become one of their own as well. So that is how I usually go about it, and then I start that entire thought leadership calendar of sorts from the second, third month is when I actually get into that. So
We're
that's my
gonna
playbook.
just hold your thought about the thought leadership calendar because I'm going to come back to that. But I do want to ask Justin a quick question. And I know, Justin, you've built yourself a whopping audience on LinkedIn, right? And whenever I've engaged with any of your content, most of the folks who are responding in the comments or interacting with that content are quite literally precisely the ICP that you're targeting. There's never folks who, except for the odd here and there, there's never folks who aren't relevant to you and to the content that you're posting, right? Talk to us a little bit about how you started that out, because I'm sure that that's going to be equally relevant to everybody listening in today.
Yeah, so one thing I learned early on is the people sending you connection requests are likely the people that want to bake you into their network and sell you something. And if you want to build your own network, you need to do it intentionally by sending out your own connection requests. So,
Mhm.
kind of as was mentioned, I think that's a great way to find relevant people and then use LinkedIn's recommendations. I traditionally would take like a LinkedIn search, or I would go to the Sales Navigator and get more lasered in and say, yeah, this is my ICP group. And you can layer on a filter with Sales Navigator and say, my ICP that's recently posted on LinkedIn. So get some of the most active users as well and bake those in. And then I like to have kind of a mixture. Like typically the people that I actually want to work with aren't overly active on LinkedIn or creating content a lot of the times. And so I try to balance it like ICP fit people, active people who maybe are, loosely connected or in, selling to a similar audience as me. I think that's highly relevant to connect with other creators who are serving the same audience. So even though I don't technically want to work with them, they're very beneficial. They're active, they're creators, and I can do collabs. But then I send 15 to 20 connection requests a day as a very specific motion, and then you can lead through your content as well. Like so, if you're posting images of puppies and kittens, while that might get impressions and traction, you're going to get a flood of the wrong kind of attention. So I think it's better to grow slowly and intentionally by getting a targeted search group, sending connection requests, and then I do love the tip about like kind of branching out from LinkedIn's recommendations. One of the things I did early on was if you liked my content, sometimes I would then go to your profile and like 3 of your posts. If you commented on
Mm.
my, I would then go to yours and I would make sure I engage. And it does a couple of things. It's this kind of quid pro quo unspoken rule on social media where we're helping each other. It also like really fuels LinkedIn's algorithm of if I engage with someone's content and send them a message, my post will then get priority on their feed next when I post. And so I'm doing these things like to be a good human, but also I know that it also fuels how the algorithm works. I don't make it sound like I'm just gaming the system, but the two go very hand in hand.
Absolutely. That's very comprehensive, Justin. Thank you for that. I'm So when we're thinking about building this audience, right, and you're talking about sending people for the right ICP, these connection requests and engaging with their content, one of the things that still happens, right, is that there's so much noise in the ecosystem, on the channels, on the different networks and platforms that we're in. Even though you're connected to the right people, you're still not able to break through. And I think a lot of the times that's really where much of the thought leadership fails to lead anybody anywhere, right? How is it that we can leverage um, the certain strategies that we can leverage so that we can try and break through that noise, cut through all of the fluff, and really stand out to our ICP? How do we do that? I'm going to ask Justin to sort of chime in on that one first, because he's really big on video, and we were just talking about video with Lindsay in the session before. So Justin, if you want to just maybe take a lead on video content there as well.
Yeah, I do think video is, doing something different than other people are doing. So video is a great format, and weirdly enough, I'm not the kind of person that wants to put myself out in the open. I did it because I want to do what's best for the company, and putting yourself out there is one of the least expensive and most effective ways to do it. And video is a great format because not only they get to see your personality, and I think that is key. Like, and these are social platforms, so even though people do come to LinkedIn to learn and improve their business, there's also this social element. They want to feel like they know you, understand you, know what you believe in, dislike, and so getting that conveyed, I think it is really important. The other thing I think is really key to think about is don't don't attack LinkedIn as if it's the ocean you're trying to boil. If you're a newcomer to content and you comment, it can be really kind of scary to say, okay, I'm one person in marketing or tech or whatever. How am I going to compete with these massive people? If you do the first step I said, which is intentionally build your own network with 15 connection requests a day, chances are most of the people that are connected to you, they don't share the same connections that you do. They don't have the same feed. They're not connected to all these big influencers that are intimidating you. If you even post 2 or 3 times a week, chances are to the average person on LinkedIn, you're dominating their feed. So while you might
Mm.
feel inadequate and that you aren't making a dent, if you have 1,000 connections, that's your pond. You don't have to worry about the whole ocean of LinkedIn. Worry about creating authority in your small pond. And 2 to 3 times a week is usually enough to be one of the biggest voices in their feed. And so that's a really powerful thought. But then, yeah, the format, the frequency, the engagement, and some messages, and even going offline and saying, hey, let me have, if I have more time than budget right now, let me book a bunch of calls, let me like try to strike up some partnerships, understand people. Like, it goes a long way to create those. But yeah, the idea of a pond versus the ocean concept can really be a big thing that demystifies some of this and makes it a lot less scary for you.
Absolutely. Rohit, on that note, talking about scary, right? There's a lot of hesitance or reluctance to actually go out there and start posting or start creating thought leadership content. And I know that you've worked with a lot of founders who were very behind the scenes people. They were not very social in that sense. They were not very present on a lot of these social channels or networks. How do you sort of overcome, both as a founder or as a marketer who's writing either for the founder or trying to push people in their team to create thought leadership content? How do you overcome that resistance or that reluctance to share thought leadership content?
Um, Great question again. I think there are two parts of that answer. One is thankfully for people like Justin, and then there's Chris, and then the like Dave Gardart is there, then David Cancel. Like all of these people have been shouting on the top of their voices that guys, you need to come on LinkedIn, and finally founders have come to accept that reality. Okay, I mean it's not a do or die situation, but at least they appreciate the opportunity that a platform like LinkedIn gives them to own their voice and own their audience. So there is a hesitation, as well as the intent is also there to come online. So it's a comparatively a easier sell now as compared to before. That is the first piece. The second piece is uh, not everyone will be comfortable with all forms of content. Some people, as Justin said, that he was not comfortable with video. Some people are not like I have not yet put out a selfie picture of mine on LinkedIn ever. While
Thank you for
like
that.
there was a time where every picture, every human picture was getting like 500 likes, right? Because LinkedIn was pushing it so aggressively, and I could not. I was like, no, I am not that person, and it's okay. The thing is to finding your mojo, as you say, in any creative outlet is to find what works for you. But at the same time, you have to find out that LinkedIn exists for its own benefit, and hence you need to feed the algorithm the things that it needs to make you bubble up in on top of other people's newsfeed. So for example, I do this thing where it's sort of my brand personality, my own personal LinkedIn, where I have a slice of humor to everything. So I do this thing where newsjacking is a part of my post schedule. That anything controversial, anything that is on top of everybody's LinkedIn, Twitter feed, I make a joke out of it and I put it on LinkedIn, because I know that this will be pushed by the LinkedIn algorithm on different people's feed. I might not put a selfie, but I do that. So I think that is very very important to sit with that person, whoever you are pushing or whoever feed you are building on LinkedIn, is to understand what is their comfort area, because it's not a 4 week job, it's not a 6 week job. You have to keep on doing this for the longer run, and if you're not really comfortable in doing those things, you cannot keep on doing it. It's like exercising. I know, wrong person to talk about it, but it's much like that until you really find fun in what you're doing every day, 5 a.m. in the morning, you're not going to do it for more than a month. So that is very, very important to find the right format for that person.
And that's
Absolutely.
really good. It's really good advice to say, look at the tools that are available and the things that you see go viral, as you're consuming content, and then put them I specifically comfortable with polling on a regular basis, because you need to figure out your own lane to swim in, and then you put your own spin on it. But that mix, that's really good advice.
Yeah, and I think this whole idea of personal spins or personality in that sense, right? A lot of founders, a lot of executives, a lot of CMOs, head honchos are all very well known for a certain brand of thought leadership, right? But when you think about that personal brand versus the company brand, what do you think is, how do you sort of balance that out, right? Because enough and more of us are working at companies where we're creating thought leadership that aligns, of course, ultimately with the company's objectives. How do you sort of approach that balance of that personal brand versus the company brand? And I know, Justin, there's been a lot of conversations that in fact, that you've been a part of on LinkedIn, but more and more people are saying, stop posting on your company page, start posting on your personal profiles. How do you both see that playing out? I'll ask Justin to take that first.
Um, I so my answer is I don't fully have it figured out yet, because I built my personal brand that kind of became the identity of our company, and I haven't really separated that company side out. And so my thought on like the company page is it gets terrible organic reach. I don't want to post like boring or corporate crap over there. And so if I am going to post over there, it's probably going to be stuff that I made, or now as the agency's expanded, like my next big drive is to elevate other subject matter experts from our different departments and humanize, so it's not just Justin's, agency. It's, hey, we have a team of experts. But I would say there's a couple of things. The company brand, there's not a huge appetite for consumption of company brand content on LinkedIn. So the company promotional stuff, the overly old traditional commercial stuff, like that's not why people are on LinkedIn. So if you want to push that, you're gonna have to put some money behind it, because people aren't here to consume it. And so I would say the founder led brand, the humanizing your brand, or if you don't have someone in your company that you're building kind of a brand around, like the founder led side, I would at least look to humanize your brand, showcase more of the humanity side, the personality side, because I think that's huge. Like, yes, there should be, I guess, on the corporate side, like some core values of what you stand for, like a level of excellence, the type of client you serve, the capabilities and sophistication that you come to the table with. But then, to me, the other massive part that you can lead with is, who are the humans executing this, innovating this? Because people are putting their money on that side and saying, I believe in where you're going, what you stand for, and how you approach things. And even if someone else technically has a slightly better product than you, I believe in where you're going more than where they're going, and so I'm gonna put my stake on that side. So I guess for me, I don't see a ton of relevance in building that corporate side, and so I'm still figuring out what maybe that life is. But I think there's a lot of value in either rallying behind a few individuals or the founder in a company, or finding ways to just make content that feels more personally consumable, because people aren't here to digest kind of that corporate side.
Right. But Rohit, you have lived that corporate side. So
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about that balance between founder-led brand, or, like Justin just said, the brand of that's created by or backed by the teams or the employees of the company versus the company brand itself.
Got it. Um, I've always had an opinion on this, like on everything else. I'm sorry, I'm a very opinionated person in general. So, but yeah, uh, I think Justin mentioned a very important point is the individual profiles, the founder profiles just get a lot of organic reach very easily. And that ease of distribution has made the world believe that the only way to build a brand on LinkedIn is through the founder's brand. Honestly, it's very easy and it's very beneficial as well because it gives you the reach. It has a ready-made, like the founder is a person, and hence in most cases it has a ready-made personality. So it's very easy to draw from that personality and then multiply it across the different content pieces that you create. So you have a very strong starting point, and then you take it from there. You have a sort of a laid out content strategy in principle, like you know the things that you want to talk about and so on based on the experience of the person and so on. But we should not forget, like, I'm pretty sure I am, if I ask you directly, like, who's the founder of MailChimp, like 8 out of 10 people will not be able to name those people, right? But at the same time, you know who Mark Benioff is, who Dharmesh Shah is, and so on. But does that make MailChimp any less of a brand? Right. So you can absolutely build an awesome online brand without even the founder speaking once to the audience. But it's very, very difficult and it takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. Hence, the easier way out is the founder branding. And if you want to take that route, you should take it. But I want to put that out in the public that it's not a make or break thing when you're doing it. People do it or we do it. I am one of those guys who do it because it's easier, it gets you more distribution, and it makes the brand automatically more human because people at the end of the day buy from humans. They don't buy from faceless, lifeless entities, or at least don't like to buy from faceless, lifeless identities. So on the part of the company brand, it becomes on the marketing team or the marketer to add life and personality to that brand, which is a lifeless thing, and it's very tough to do. And at the same time, in the name of the founder, the marketer gets a entire person with a personality that does just top of the line polishing, and then that brand is ready to be put outside. I think that is the reason why people prefer founder brand.
To
Got it.
what you said, if they don't have a founder brand, three brands sprung to mind. There's Duolingo, Progressive Insurance, Geico. Like, and yeah, I have no idea who's running the company, but their advertising and their marketing has personality, and I guess that's
Yeah,
maybe the common thread that has
exactly.
personality, has a life of their own. They're doing something different, humor, and so yeah, you can do that. I think it takes more budget and more like
Yeah,
creativity to do
exactly.
that on a
Always,
corporate level. But yeah,
always.
that's the thread.
And there's a lot of brilliant B2C brands doing this as well. And there's one that's a particular favorite of mine, which is Surreal. If we go on to their LinkedIn feed, it's actually the company page that gets reposts from everybody on the Surreal team. They have absolutely phenomenal, hilarious content. And I think uh, I was reading a little bit about their entire content production engine that they've built out. Much of it is, I mean, and it's not fancy pants, high production videos. It's literally just slides or carousels put up on LinkedIn. And one of the trends that they've picked up is to actually just post pictures of billboards. We don't actually ever know whether or not these are real surreal billboards being put out in the streets in England, but it makes for a fantastic marketing campaign. So loads of creativity. I'm not entirely sure whether it's really big budget or not, depending on whether they actually put those billboards out there or not. But I think we've got a lot to learn from B2C brands when it comes to, I'd say, company branding. In that sense, but I'm going to quickly circle back to something you said earlier, Rohit, which was about marketers trying to get try to infuse some life into the brand, and often and more times it's marketers who are trying to get time with the founders or with the sales folks or with the customer service or support folks, and trying to say, okay, give me some fodder for things that I can post about, perhaps even on your behalf if you're not doing the posting. I know that you have a system to do this, Rohit. Tell us about that system.
Mine started accidentally, but this is what I do. Thanks for asking about the system. It's very rudimentary, so don't be very hopeful about it. But it's very, very simple. Where I One thing I have learned by working with founders for the past 10 years is the only way to get work done with founders is block their calendars. There's no Asana, Jira, Trello built in this world to get stuff out of your founders' to-do list because it's always very, very long. So what I do is every week or a couple of weeks, I sit with the founder or whichever leader that I'm working with, and I do like a journalistic interview with them, just understanding who this person was. So, for example, if I was doing a cover story on them, so for say People's Magazine, what are the questions that I would ask them? And I go on and ask them. I'm like, okay, tell me, how did you decide to become the founder of this company? What led you? What was the Eureka moment? What was those experiences that cumulatively make you this guy and make you suited to be this person and so on? And these are like there's now for the past couple of years, I have drilled it down to say five, seven questions in the first call and then the five questions in the next call and so on. So now there is a playbook, but essentially it started with a very leading list of questions for those subject matter experts. And I record them on a software like Avoma or Gong or Chorus, something like that, which transcribes it really well. I take that transcription and I put it into ChatGPT and ask it to give me the common themes of conversations that I have gone through that in that conversation. Then I said, I create an Excel sheet. I just create different story points. I Again, this reminds me of a great book. The book is called Storyworthy. Everybody should read it. Very highly recommended from my side. Storyworthy gives you an idea about like what incidents can be turned into a story. So based on my intuitive understanding, I create story moments out of that conversation, just put it like a prompt kind of a style in a Google Sheet, and then pick the fodder from the conversation that I have had and create like 10 posts out of that, send it to the founder for understanding, adding a spin of their own, and then scheduling based on the best practices possible. So that gives me like a calendar of sorts and getting that content out of the people that they did not know existed with them.
That sounds great. And I know, Justin, you put a bunch of thoughts in the chat. Why don't you elaborate on that?
Oh, yeah. At first, I thought that was a question from someone in the crowd, so I thought it was helping out here. But yeah, so my thoughts are, it is really time consuming. I'm not going to lie and say like building thought leadership is easy and everyone can do it and should do it. And a part of the thing is, yeah, should leaders of billion-dollar companies like dive in and how much time should they dedicate? But they have resources and teams. So for most of us normal human beings or running small to mid-sized companies, I would say there's some things you can't outsource. You can't outsource the subject matter expertise extraction. So you can't have like an intern doing Google research on the topic that you're supposed to be authority of and writing your copy and articles and publishing them. Like, you will not be establishing yourself as a thought leader if the actual gritty thought leadership expertise isn't coming straight from the top somehow or from the deep trenches of experience. What you can outsource is someone to structure that time. So, in our organization, what happens is we have a content division, and Kaylee, who runs that, they structure a time either weekly or biweekly for me to sit down. It's blocked out of my calendar to talk and to record that session. And so that's super helpful. And then from there, the video editing that can be outsourced or internal, external. The copywriting and first draft, like, that can be outsourced. You can actually train now a AI bot on your like tone of voice. So as you're getting these interviews and these transcripts, you should be feeding those somewhere. So it's helping improve this process over time. The copywriting, the first draft, that can be outsourced, and the publishing and distribution that can be outsourced. But then I do think the other thing that's pretty near impossible to outsource is when I say, okay, posting on LinkedIn is half the battle. You also have to engage with the world around you. I don't see how you can easily outsource that, because the thing that gets the most traction is thoughtful comments, either engaging with your post comments or engaging with other people out in the world in a thoughtful way, drawing from actual expertise. Because yes, you could trick the algorithm with just like 100 surface level, like, I agree, this is great, love it, like, type of comments. but that's not going to help establish you as a thought leader by
Mm.
leaving contrarian opinions on a popular post or offering like actual actionable advice to someone's question on there. And so those are the two main things like that you have to draw from a subject matter expert. And then yes, you can build resources around to amplify, distribute that, polish it as you scale.
Absolutely. So you can outsource a large part of this, but you can't outsource the actual thinking in the thought leadership or the thoughts in the thought leadership. On that, Justin, I this one is something that I know is right up your alley. Justin, are you still with us? Can you hear us still?
Sorry, there we go.
Okay.
Lost it for a second.
We now do also have very recently we've got the option of running thought leadership ads on LinkedIn, right? And of course, this is something which is completely your area of expertise. And what I wanted to understand from you first, of course, is the advice that you'd give to somebody who's just starting out with this process, right? What is the first thing that you'd want somebody to consider when they're considering running thought leadership ads?
The first thing I would usually say is start and test organically first. So I think if you're already posting organically, you're seeing what resonates with your audience, you have a lot better insights of what's because the truth is if it works organically, it resonates with your audience. And the biggest telling factor is if you actually write a post or share a resource and people are reaching out in the DMs or comments asking, for to talk or like showing interest in your actual service. That kind of content that hits that hard and positions you as an expert, that makes perfect thought leadership ads. So my basic philosophy is test with low friction content. You can get a lot of stuff out there, test the signals, and then you should amplify what's working with thought leader. Because what I'm seeing right now, and everyone who's active on LinkedIn, they're seeing your organic reach get diminished. It's harder and harder to make as much of a splash and get as much noise as you did before. So the one thing I've loved about thought leadership ads is that I can take my greatest posts that get the most traction and I can basically make them evergreen and highly targeted. So now, because part of my strategy before, and it still is I have about 20 posts that over the last 5 years, I've kind of learned like if I post this with a slight tweak, it's gonna do great, and I'm probably gonna get a couple of inbound leads. And so I've taken like those 20 posts, put them in a thought leadership campaign, put them as a retargeting audience. So I would say start organically. Also, really consider using thought leadership as retargeting. So if they visit my company page or my website, what are 10 to 20 pieces of content that I would love for my ideal prospect to see after they leave my website that would help paint me in the right light and position me as an expert that would give me the greatest chance of moving the needle on trust and
Mhm.
credibility? Because in B2B, it's not just staying top of mind, it's how can you move the needle on trust and credibility across that threshold to the point where they're now comfortable enough to reach out and talk to you. So test organically, and then I do think structuring it in retargeting is a great play to kind of create that little ecosystem for the biggest impact.
Absolutely. No, that's really great advice there, Justin. In terms of measuring the success of thought leadership, right? Of course, I know that with ads, this becomes a lot easier because you've set yourselves certain success metrics for your ads. But going beyond ads as well, how do you recommend for both organic as well as for paid thought leadership initiatives? How do you recommend measuring the success of these initiatives?
Is that still me?
Yeah, please. And then I'll ask Rohit to chime in.
So yes, for measuring success, I didn't come from like the social media side of the world, and when I came on the paid ad side, so I'm always constantly looking for like down the funnel. So for me, I'm not measuring on likes and engagement, although that is nice to have. I'm measuring on things like did I get someone that looks like the client I want to serve in my engaging with my content. So there's a couple of things I look at. I look at profile viewers from ICP fit prospects. That's a great indicator that I'm moving in the right direction. If my comment section of an engagement on my post is more concentrated in the areas I want to serve, that's great. If I get actual messages either in my comments or in my DMs from people that are actually reaching out based on my content to want to talk to me or my team, like that is amazing. And then we ask every single call booker how they heard about us. So I do rely on channel attribution for influence. We also require all the call bookers to tell us where they heard of us. And so seeing that touch point of the people that say LinkedIn post or LinkedIn, now it's blended between, is that organic or is that paid? It's hard to tell the difference, but like that is a really qualitative touch point of saying, okay, we're doing something that works. I don't really look at my overall like impressions and follower growth and stuff like that. I'm really looking at those touch points to see that I'm moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. And for you, Rohit, looking more at the organic side of things as well, how do you think about whether or not certain pieces of thought leadership have been successful?
From an organic perspective, it's a sad state of affair where that attribution is not really present in terms of the platform just doesn't give you that data. But I think uh, obviously the rudimentary tracking of social contributed traffic to the website and that is there, and then the impressions that the LinkedIn page is getting and is that graph growing up in the right and all of that is there, honestly. But I think um, the only way that I have seen this really panning out, because organic is something that takes a long while to work out, and then it sort of crosses a threshold where it becomes dependable month on month. I think it has just been tracking month on month the aggregate numbers. That is the traffic contribution from a brand perspective and from a social media contribution perspective. Has it gone constantly up or not? And obviously now you have reverse IP tools to give you that data, that if that traffic is relevant or not. So I think relevant traffic month over month is the most that we can get. I agree to Justin where obviously you would want to measure very top of the funnel data, as in like impressions and likes and all of that, and you can go into post analytics and actually see if the ICP is closely matching to your ICP or not. But at the
Mhm.
same time, since LinkedIn is like a constantly refreshing feed, impressions might not always mean that people have even learned or read your content. So while that is a good indicator, you should not depend upon that. You should like rather look at whether it is going down the funnel and if the right ICPs are going down the funnel or not.
Absolutely, that makes complete sense. I'm going to try and wrap up our conversation today with just this one last question. And I know we spent the last 44 minutes now talking about thought leadership on LinkedIn, but thought leadership does exist outside LinkedIn as well, right? So I'm going to take a few closing remarks from both of you about where else founders, marketers, folks on front facing teams, customer facing teams, or audience facing teams, where else can they try and build up their thought leadership presence?
Is that for me?
Why don't you start, Rohit?
Go for it.
Okay. Uh, I would have obviously I would list down all the conventional channels that you see right now is basically knocking on the famous podcast doors and going as a guest. The good old guest blogging, guest posting still really works well. Uh, One of the things that recently, and I'd let actually Justin as an expert on that side, he can more expand on that maybe, but I'll actually focus on the other side, which I have sort of learned in the past year and a half working in a very core niche vertical SaaS company called Fleet Panda is the small mixers and small associations of businesses where your customers hang out, like trade association and industry conventions. Those are the smaller events where you want to speak and you want to be a part of, where you can actually
Mhm.
share the tactical subject matter expertise, uh, and where people actually lend an ear to you rather than the networking big conferences that that you get. So I think the micro conference speaking gig is a great new channel that every founder should look at. Either they buy that speaking opportunity through sponsorship or through relationship building, or they have a very differentiated point of view. Either which ways, I think the micro conference the micro event mixer speaking gig thing, whatever you call it. I don't have a term for it right now, but I think that has worked really well for me in the past 1 year, where my founder has just been in every association meetup in and around our geography. And I would highly recommend that for building thought leadership on ground and shaking more hands.
Got
So
it.
that's one thing that I'll say.
Super. Justin, really quick take on that before we close.
I agree with the micro conferences, little in-person get-togethers, and the one addition I would add is I think YouTube is an amazing place as well, because it's also YouTube podcast or something like that, where it's a collection of bingeable content that if someone discovers one, they can then discover a whole series. I think that's a great way to accelerate it versus feed by feed, post by post. I would leverage those platforms as well.
Absolutely
Yep.
great. Fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your fabulous insights. That is all we have time for today. Unfortunately, I know we could have continued talking a lot more. So thank you, Justin, and thank you, Rohit, very much for being a part of this panel. And I hope we've been able to share some interesting details with the audience today. Folks, coming up next, our next session is with Lais Oliveira about building community and using community as a distribution moat. So stay tuned. We'll get started with that shortly. Thanks so much for tuning into this one.
Thanks for having us, Pallavi. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.